Welcome to the show. I'm Olivia Nunn, and this is where we rise, rebuild, and remember that storms don't break us. They reveal us. So let's get into it. And I'm here with my new friend, Dr. Cheryl Wood. She is a globally acclaimed keynote speaker, TEDx presenter, best-selling author, and founder of Global Speakers University. She's a professional training and development company that teaches leaders how to craft and deliver powerful messages. And she is a powerful public speaker. Dr. Wood, thank you so much for spending your time with me. I mean, wow, you've got so much power and accolade and charisma. And let me just say, when I met you, I'm like, I want to be like her. There's some things that you and I have some similarity, but there are some things that you've done that I'm like, I want to be like her. And I definitely need to talk to her. So I'm super excited that I was able to snag a little bit of your busy schedule to spend time and just to share your story. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so excited to be here. I love talking about my story and my journey, and it has been a journey. So thank you for the invitation. I'm glad that you were able to see something that you felt would resonate with your community, and I'm super excited. I'm an open book here and ready to share.
So I met you at the Global Icon summit and presentation that we had just a couple of weeks ago. And you presented at the summit and you talked about, I think the part that really resonated with me is that you talked about how, people join us in certain parts of our lives. And as you talked about chapters, especially from a social media perspective, which I often say, right? Social media is the glitz and the glamour, and it's the highlight reel. And people come to know you as Dr. Wood, who has achieved all these accolades, which I just only scratched the surface of your many accolades. And then this is the next part that really just got me on the edge of the seat and why I really wanted to talk to you. And this is the next part. You said it's all the stuff, all the trauma, all the things that nobody wants to talk about, all the hardship, all the storms that want to break you, that gets you to that point that truly defines you, that sometimes you lose friendships along the way, the madness that could take somebody out. And when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And I need to talk to her. So can we unwind that a little bit and, start at a little bit of your beginning of what you meant by that and what your unbreakable moments were for you?
Yeah. I've been on this journey of, I'll call it a journey of discovery and exploration and curiosity about who I am and who I can become and how I can make my life bigger than me by pouring into others, serving others. I've been on that journey for the past 15 years. And I do find that in the industry I'm in, as an entrepreneur or a visionary or change maker, that people love to tell you their start, and they love to skip the middle and go to the end. But I'm like, what happened in the middle? That's usually the juiciest part and sometimes the ugliest part, because that, I believe, and for me was true, is where all the storms really hit the hardest. Like, sometimes you feel like it's a little bit of a struggle to get started, but most times we have a bit of energy and passion. We're kind of excited or enthusiastic about starting something. And of course, once we get to a place of success, we always want to talk about that. But it's like, what is that in between, in the middle space that people don't talk about? The breakdowns that lead to the breakthroughs, and the moments where you do want to throw in the towel and you're wondering, is this just madness that I'm still trying to do this thing because nothing's going my way? The clients aren't coming, the contracts aren't coming. I'm more broke now than when I was before. It's like when you're questioning the legitimacy of your own dream. Like, is this even a legitimate dream? Should I be even pursuing this still? Or should I just go back to what I know? And what I knew before I started this journey was working in a corporate job from 9 to 5, like most people, and being content and satisfied, feeling like I shouldn't rock the boat because I should just feel blessed that I had a job. But I'm just that person. There was something inside of me that was yearning to discover what else is there, What other possibilities are there for you, Cheryl? And so I got on that journey through a lot of questioning myself, through a lot of hesitation because I had a lot of head trash about who I was and who I could potentially become based on where I grew up in an environment of poverty where not a lot of success stories come out of that environment. And then I even had the head trash of some other people who were closely connected to me because, of course, they didn't want to see me hurt by pursuing something that potentially could have no real end, no desirable end. So when you pile on top of your own head trash, the head trash of people who love you and don't want to see you fail, and then the head trash of society and what they say you can or can't do based on what you have or what you don't have. For me, I didn't have letters behind my name. I didn't go to college. So the world was telling me you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're going to fall flat on your face. When you are piling all of that on top of your own insecurities and fears, it is sometimes very hard to stay persistent in the course. And so I feel blessed to be here today in a space where, I am still doing what I love 15 years later. I have not thrown in the towel, even though there were times I wanted to. And, I'm going to pause there because I want to take a breath and give you an opportunity. I don't know if you want me to go straight into what my moment of kind of that space was where I really did want to throw in the towel and thought I was going to, but I'll take a breath because I think that's important.
Yeah, there's so many nuggets and there's so many questions. Oftentimes you said something, oftentimes people say that you said people will get to a part where they want to throw in the towel. Mm-hmm. And because imposter syndrome comes in, or they listen to the noise either inside their own head or the noise that's surrounded by them because it's their loved ones, their friends, the people that are around them. And so they wonder, man, I'm not where I want to be. I'm not achieving the milestones that I've set out for myself. And I'm in this uncomfortable situation. Do I stop and go back to the comfort of what I once knew? Yeah. When you are in that place, which for many can be a storm in itself, how did you break through? Because you always hear that cliche of keep going. You're just right around the corner. And when you come around the corner, that's your breakthrough, right? You've always hear those things. How did you know that was going to be your breakthrough moment?
That's such a great question. I mean, you don't know. I mean, we do. Like you said, we hear the cliches and like, oh, you're almost there. But sometimes you feel like, look, I've been digging for years. When am I going to get there? And that's why a lot of people bail. But I think that's why it's important that you develop the mindset. My mindset was, what are you going to go back to, Cheryl? Honestly, that's what kept me going. Because once I started on the journey and I became aware of the thing that just nurtured something inside of me, it made me feel alive. I was doing this thing that I hadn't discovered all my life. And then finally it feels like it drops in my lap, which we know it didn't. It revealed itself because I was in motion. I was in movement, consistent and constant, and in exploration. That's why it found me. So I had to be readily available to be found, for the gift to find me and to land in my lap, so to speak. But it was through the hard times, through the times where I wasn't getting hired to speak on stages, I wasn't making any money, I was questioning, should I keep going to the job, when I really was ready to leave the job long before then, because it had sucked everything out of me. And I wanted to do this thing that I was so energized and excited about, but the money wasn't there yet. During those times, it was, Zig Ziglar has this quote. He says, in order to reach a goal, you've got to see the reaching in your mind before you ever reach the goal. So you've got to see it before you see it. We hear that. And that's literally what I held on to. I banked on this idea that, Cheryl, there is no way that you can drastically shift everything you've ever been doing, everything you've ever known. You literally did a 360. You're doing completely the opposite of that. There is no way you can keep doing that and never, ever get results. So I didn't put an expiration date on when the results had to show up. I simply banked on the fact that if I kept planting seeds, there was no flipping way that something wasn't going to sprout eventually. That's honestly what kept me in the game.
So you're going along because you want to change in your life. how did you where was your rock bottom moment? And what was that rock bottom moment? Because, life, as we talked about, I always have said life to me is like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I've said this before if you're a person that likes pictures in their mind, I feel like most people ride a mini roller coaster, right? You got these little mini ups, little mini downs, little mini ups, and it's doable, right? It's like the kiddie roller coaster, and life is good, it's bad, but overall it's decent. But I feel like there's the few of us in life that have these monster roller coaster rides. It's this massive uphill and it's this massive downhill. So for you, where is this first massive downhill where you're just at this bottom and you're just like, this is going to take me out, but I've got to somehow find my way out? And what was that for you?
Yeah, it was when I finally was so excited and energized about speaking. I knew that it was a gift, but I also knew I had to be responsible for the gift. I think that's so important that people don't just rely on a gift. I wanted to master the skill. I wanted to master the art of speaking, not just say to people, oh, I'm just great at speaking. I'm a great orator. Because then you create a false sense of reality for other people who want to do something similar to you. So that was one thing. So when I finally got into the space where I made a decision, speaking was the thing I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I always say, because I wanted to make people feel more hopeful and more confident and assured themselves for the rest of my life. That's when things shifted. And because I knew something different was going to have to happen, there was no way I was going to reach the epitome of what I wanted to accomplish, the lives I wanted to impact, and how I wanted to change my own life for myself and my family, doing what I'd always done, which was sitting in a cubicle at the time as a legal secretary. I'd done that for about 14 years of my journey and waiting on somebody to give me a paycheck, right? So it was the moment I decided to disrupt my norm, my safety, my security net, that all hell broke loose, as they say. So I got up the courage to believe in myself enough to say, Cheryl, if you walk away from this 40-hour-a-week job, and at the time the job was paying me like 80 grand, maybe a little over 100 grand by the time I did some overtime there because I was a legal secretary. If you walk away from this and you take that 40 hours and you put it into your passion and the thing you love and the thing that ignites something inside of you, there's no way you can't succeed. There's no way you're going to fail. That's what I convinced myself of. So I did just that. And that took a lot of courage because I grew up in a time frame where I was taught, hey, you get a good job, especially as a brown girl who grew up in an inner city housing project, who came from nothing, who didn't have a college degree, to land that job as a legal secretary in a big law firm, making over $100,000 a year. For most people, it was like, girl, be quiet. Don't rock the boat. Don't make any noise. Stay where you are. But my spirit wouldn't let me. And so I finally got up the nerve, got up the courage to walk away, and I'm going to put everything into this business. And 6 months after I walked away, my husband got laid off from his job. The course of that 6 months after that was our absolute rock bottom. I mean, we had 3 kids who were relying on us to eat 3 times a day. I had no job, no income. I'm banking everything on this business. And what I learned very quickly is that people will love you, very much so when you are free. So of course people wanted me to come and speak because I was free. But once I put a price tag on it, it was a completely different ball game. And I had no skill set as it related to sales, to branding, to marketing, to like nothing. I had no real business acumen. I just had passion, grit, grind, drive. But I found out really quickly that wasn't going to be enough. I had to learn how to sell and market and promote and all the things. But it was the 6 months from when I left and my husband got laid off 6 months later, and that 6 month following, when I tell you, really 12 months following, we just kept going down this financial hole, and it became such a space of desperation. We lost everything. I mean, everything. My car was repossessed. We end up filing bankruptcy. We were barely getting by. And that's a very hard time for me to recount because I remember sitting on my couch at one point and tears streaming down my face because I thought to myself, number one, a part of me was like, well, God, you said this was my divine assignment and how I'm meant to serve the world. How could I know that and feel that so strongly inside, but nothing's working? That was one thing. And then the other part of it was, wow, you're a mom, with responsibilities to raise 3 kids and to show them, expose them to new things that you didn't get exposed to. And you've just put yourself right in a position of what you grew up in, which is in a space of poverty and lack. So it was a part of me that felt like I just felt so distraught and empty, because I felt like I was chasing some dream that was never going to be a reality. And that I had put my family in harm's way financially because of my decision to chase a dream. That was my rock bottom.
I can relate to that mom side of you, right? That feeling of rock bottom. I really haven't shared too much of this, but, I retired from the Army. And I went into contracting, and then I left that and started my own business. And my business has done that roller coaster ride. I've been successful, and I've hit rock bottom, and then I was successful again. And I'm actually at the bottom yet again. And the first time I hit rock bottom, because that was my only line of income that was coming in. Yes, I have, my retirement and my disability, but that's not enough for everything in order to count. And I couldn't make enough. I couldn't do enough to make ends meet. And I had enough to make sure that the roof stayed over myself and that my kids would be okay. So we weren't living on the streets or in the car, but I struggled with being able to have groceries. And that was hard. Yeah. It was hard to ask anybody, because in my head, I was like, I am a graduate, right? I have 3 degrees.
Yep.
I am a retired United States Army officer who's had a successful career. And I felt like, man, I'm the stupidest person alive. I'm so stupid. I went through a divorce. I'm a mom, and I can't even feed my kids right now.
Yeah.
Right. That was hard. And I couldn't even give them a Christmas too.
Yeah.
I felt like the worst mom ever.
Oh, that we were in the same space. I was in the same space. I felt this tremendous amount of guilt. Like, how dare you run off to chase some dream? That's how I felt inside when you just put your family into this financial turmoil, when you could have just stayed on the job. And that what it felt like? It felt like, how you get on an airplane and you got to go through the turbulence before you get above the clouds. And then it's like, oh my goodness, is the plane still even on? Like, it feels like the engine's not even on. It was that rocky, shaky turbulence. Like, oh my God, you're kind of like grabbing somebody's arm. Like, okay, what are we going to make it? It was that. The thing that got me through that was a lot of prayer. A lot of belief, a lot of mindset shift, because all I kept saying was, Cheryl, but you already know what that road leads to. You've done that for 14 years. You know that leads you to misery. And if you're miserable, you give your kids the most miserable part of you. So how do we take this, and how do we pick ourselves up and try to figure out a way? And I just slowly but surely started going to, I started reading a lot of books about people who had become very successful through entrepreneurship. I jumped on back then, do you remember Blog Talk Radio? I used to listen to Blog Talk Radio shows. I would be inspired by other people's stories. And it slowly started to kind of like rebuild that igniting that I felt inside before when I first started. It slowly started building that back up. And the more I read and the more I listened to people's stories, and that, oh, well, they failed too before they succeeded. Oh, they went through that before they got there. Okay, so what you're going through. And now it became almost like, oh, this is what you're supposed to expect is going to happen before you ever have the breakthrough, before you ever have the 6-figure or the 7-figure business, before you're right. Like, this is what people go through. And I think once you create that as the expectation in your mind as the truth and the reality of it, that you don't wake up tomorrow and you're a success, that yes, you've got to work for it, that yes, you're going to hear more no's than you hear yes in the beginning, but that you got to keep pushing and keep grinding and keep showing up, and you've got to do the work. Once I put that in my mind, which I was never afraid of the work, I just didn't think it was going to take that darn long to get up off the ground, right?
You say something I think that is so powerful, and I hope our listeners really key in on this, is doing the work and it's going to take time. And the reason why I want to key in on this is because social media makes it seem like it's this overnight success. The people take on a side hustle, a job, a project that they don't really know much about, right? Something that they're not really trained. And it seems like within days, they turn the side hustle into this like 6-7 figured lifestyle, according to the way they're portraying it on social media.
Yes.
Whether or not that's true, that's not what's being shown, right?
Right.
And I think that's so hard when you're somebody going through a struggle, when you're going through your rock bottom moments and you're trying to make ends meet and you're, trying to determine, are you supposed to listen to that voice of stay where you are, or do you go forward, or do you run back to what you know, because you're looking at all these influencers, right? So I love the fact that you say, it's work and it's going to take time.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, especially now, it's pretty bad. And I always say people always show you their, kind of snapshot of the success, but they don't show you the 25 failures before they got to the 7-figure business or the success. And I think that's why we have to have, platforms like this that you've created where we can tell the truth about the messy middle and the failures. And, I wanted to give up. I wanted to throw in the towel. Yes, it was hard. Yes, I lost everything before I gained everything. Like, we need more people sharing those truths so that people have, again, an expectation of this is not going to be overnight. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be instant. It's not going to be free. None of those things. And I think that expectation kind of settles you into, okay, this is really a journey. This is really a journey. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And I've got to acknowledge, how committed am I to finishing the marathon?
So you're at this moment of, you're just like, man, life is truly sucking. I'm feeling this, and I'm wondering if this is where I'm supposed to be. But you've committed yourself to this. You know that this is the course that you should stay on. How long from that moment till you actually saw a parting in the clouds where you're like, yes, we're actually getting some traction, where money actually started coming in and you didn't feel like your life is falling apart?
It took a while. And I'll be very honest. I love sharing this story. It got so bad. And here's the thing. My husband had more of a specialized job than I did. So he couldn't just go out and get a job tomorrow. I was a legal secretary and I was great at what I did. So I was like a valuable asset. And I could go get a job making $75,000, $80,000, the next week. It got so bad. I stuck with it probably about over a year. And then it was just like, something has to give. He can't find a job. I have the ability to work, but I don't want to work because, I'm stuck on this being a full-time entrepreneur thing. And I prayed about that thing, and I finally made a decision that I was going to go back to work. And what I did was, and that's a whole nother topic, because I felt so guilty, because I kind of came up in the journey of, we were in this space where it was like, it's either or. You're either an entrepreneur or you're a corporate girl. Like the people I was around made me feel like it was going to be, the worst thing if you ever have to go back to a job. And that's why I free my clients of that. And I always say, number one, always do whatever you have to do for your family. And don't you ever have a guilt factor about keeping a job or going back to a job, because that might be a temporary thing that has to be a part of your journey, and it's meant to be a part of your story. I didn't have that type of support when I was going through that. So there was a level of guilt that was just eating away at me. Nonetheless, going back to the story, I decided to get a temporary job. So, you can go to these temp agencies, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just go back for a couple months. I'll try to find something just so we can kind of get our footing, right? Because we had like no money coming. It was really bad. And so I did. I ended up getting hired for a major transportation company. They had a young lady who was out on maternity leave. They said it's a 3-month gig. I was like, perfect. I wasn't thrilled, but I was happy. I was like, okay, I can get a check for 3 months. So I go in, And me being who I am, my mother always taught me to be exceptional at anything I put my hands on. So I go in and I'm color coding. I'm color coding the files in the girl system. I'm changing things, and it's like, who is this lady? And unfortunately, the person who I was covering for wasn't bringing that level of excellence to the role. Okay, so that's just what it is. So the 3 months go by, I'm like, yes, we got a little bit of money coming in. I'm not thrilled that I got to go to work every day, but it is what it is. And she comes back, and the person I'm supporting, which is for this transportation company, but I'm supporting the law firm, the attorneys in their law department, not law firm, in the law department. They pull me to the side. They pull me in the room. They're like, we know that your 3 months is over. We don't want you to go. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't do this. Hold on. And at the time, the general counsel of this major transportation company, the general counsel was looking for an executive right-hand assistant. They offered me that job. And I was so torn because I was like, oh my God. Number one, I don't want to work again. Number two, I don't want to get stuck in doing this and getting used to a paycheck again, because I know what rabbit hole that leads me to. And I don't want to lose my dream, my big dream. But baby, I needed that check. Oh, I said yes. I said yes, against my better judgment. I was like, sure, you got to do what you got to do. Your husband still doesn't have a job. The kids still want to eat. It is what it is. So I took the job. But let me tell you what the funny part about taking the job was. When I met with the person who was the general counsel, at some point, maybe like in the first couple of weeks that I was working for her, a flyer came in, and it was like an 8.5 by 11 sheet. And it was like sharing information about this attorney retreat or training program or something. So I'm looking at it, and I see all these faces. And at the bottom, in the very bottom right corner, there's a picture of an African-American woman. And it says Valerie Burton. Do you know Valerie Burton?
The name sounds familiar.
Oh, she's phenomenal. So it says Valerie Burton, motivational speaker. She was the only motivational speaker on the whole sheet of paper, the flyer. Everybody else, they were attorneys. And there was something that just like leaped inside of me. It makes me emotional thinking about it because I can remember it like it was yesterday. And I looked at that piece of paper and I jumped up and I went into my boss. This is how crazy I was. I go into my boss's office and I say, you got like a second. Like, I know you're busy, but I got to show you this. Like, remember I was telling you what I want to do? Because I was honest with them. I said, I will take the job, but I'm telling you, this is not my end game. This is not where I'm supposed to be. And I'm not going to be here very long because I got big dreams. And I go and I take the piece of paper and I say, see this right here? See this lady right here? I was like, that's going to be me one day. I must have been out of my mind to do that, but that's how big my belief was still inside, even though I had to take 5, 6, 7 steps backwards. That's what it felt like at the time. And that's why it's so important that people who hear this, they understand that sometimes you will take steps backward to push you forward. I needed that job, and I felt blessed to have that job to help us get back on our feet and get our footing. And then about a year, I stayed on that job for about a year and a half. And I just knew I was getting sucked back in. And I made a decision. I was like, I was a little smarter. I had a little more connections. I had been networking and developing relationships. So I didn't let my business go. I didn't let my dream go. I was still working that. I was getting on stages, not making still as much money as I needed to. But the belief was even greater than it was when I first came there. And I remember I got offered to do a radio show. And the radio show was in the middle of the day on a Tuesday. It was only for 1 hour, but it was going to require that I be there live in the studio. And I was so desperate to do this radio show. So I went into my boss's office and I said, hey, you know what my big dream is. You know what my goal is. We talked about this. I have this opportunity and I really want to take it. Would you be willing to let me leave? So I had an hour lunch break. I said, would you allow me to extend my lunch break by an hour to be gone for 2 hours and come back and work that additional hour on the end of the day? And they said no, because they said, if we do it for you, we've got to do it for everybody. But do you know what that was? That was my confirmation. I went back to my desk. I typed up my resignation letter and I gave my 2-week notice that day. And ever since then, I've never looked back. So I needed to go through that. I needed it for my footing. I needed to go through the experience. It became a powerful part of my story so that I am able to relate to my clients who will sometimes have to take 5 steps backwards before they are able to go forward. For those who feel a level of guilt about having to do things they thought they would never have to do again because now you're successful, and then you hit that rock bottom and realize, I got to go back and do the stuff I said I was never going to do again. And not to have shame and guilt about that. It positioned me to be so much more value to the people that I'm called to serve, because how do I provide you with guidance to move forward if I've never even experienced what you've been through? So
I love everything that you just said, and I can totally relate.
Yeah.
And I love that you said that we have to change the paradigm in how we think about entrepreneurship and corporate, that it can actually go hand in hand.
Yes.
Because absolutely, right? Has always been this mindset that you either are corporate or you're an entrepreneur, and that you're never this one, or it's one or the other, never both. Yep. And the reason why I can totally relate to that is because when I left corporate to start my company, and when my company fell, I didn't want to go back. Mm-hmm. And I in that desperation of not being employed for 9 months and hitting rock bottom and not being able to feed my kids and not having a Christmas, my boyfriend told me, he's like, Olivia, sometimes you have to take a couple steps back to go forward. And this is only temporary. Yeah. But I remember feeling the guilt and the shame and the I didn't even want to tell people that I was going back to corporate America, because in my mind, I was thinking, man, I must be a loser that I couldn't even make my company work, that I have to go back to corporate America because my company isn't doing well. And here's the crazy part. It wasn't that my company wasn't doing well. My client had gone bankrupt and didn't tell me.
Wow.
And so it wasn't that I had mismanaged my company. It was my client had gone bankrupt and left me hanging and didn't provide what they needed to provide me, which was paying me.
Right. Right.
And so the interesting part was I had to go back to corporate. Right. And for the longest time, people didn't even know that. I didn't even put it on my LinkedIn. I didn't even put on my LinkedIn that I went back to corporate America and I was working for one of the largest defense contracting companies out there. Mm-hmm. People didn't know that. I would just randomly, they say, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm still running my company and I work for a. They're like, what? Right. wait. Right. You went back to corporate? I'm like, yeah, I've been there for a year. They're like, wait, what? Yeah. And so then now that I'm unemployed yet again, because of all this defense contracting cuts and, Doge coming along and things like that, they're like, wait, you got Doge? How did you get Doge? You only own you own your own company. How does Doge affect you? I'm like, well, I've been in corporate again. Yeah. Because of that mentality.
Yeah.
So I love how you say that we need to get rid of that. Yeah. That it's okay to be both. You could do both.
Absolutely. You can do both. And it takes courage to do both. It takes courage to know that you can keep your dream alive and still pay the bills. It takes a level of courage and tenacity and determination and commitment. I mean, it's not for the weak-hearted. So we should be celebrating the people who, sometimes find themselves in a space where this is necessary right now, that I do both, that I do a dual. I have a friend who has a company called Dualpreneur, that I'm a dualpreneur, right? Not giving up the dream, not giving up all that I've built, but at the same time, making sure that I am able to handle my responsibilities, because then they'd be talking about you about that. If you don't handle your financial responsibilities and you're out, living in a cardboard box, God forbid, so people are always going to have something to say and something to talk about. So your best bet is to look out for you and your family and do what's best for you, and let everybody else, talk about whatever they want to talk about, but make sure that you take care of you, because none of them are going to say, well, come sleep on my couch and come move your family into my house. They're going to be looking at you like you're crazy. So, yeah.
So, you've had these ups and these downs, and, you've persevered and you've been able to, fulfill your dream. And earlier, I mentioned you are a keynote speaker, right? Mm-hmm. So now your name is on these flyers. People are calling you.
Right.
You've been a TEDx speaker, which is a feat on its own. For those that don't know, getting on a TEDx stage is not easy.
No.
I know this because I've tried, and it is a big deal.
Yes.
Kudos to you, and that is still on my bucket list, by the way.
Yes, you're gonna do it.
And a best-selling author, that is on my bucket list to actually write a book one of these days. I've been told that I need to. I just haven't gotten around to it. But time. How do you find time to do all of this? Because I know people tell me it seems like I never have time, but how do you find time? Because you also are mentoring, right? Because you give back, you mentor and develop, others to follow. So how do you continuously do this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I'm at the place in my journey where I thought my kids really needed me when they were young, but Lord have mercy, nobody told me about when they turned teenagers. It's just a different level of needing you. It's crazy. So I have a 17-year-old who's about to turn 18 and he's a senior in high school. I have an 18-year-old who's about to turn 19. He just graduated high school earlier this year. And I have a 21-year-old. And so that guiding them and directing them and trying to help them to find themselves and make good decisions. Woo, that on its own, like I need some therapy for. That and then nurturing a marriage, my husband and I have been married for 18 years. So you got that on top of all the responsibilities of running a global enterprise. And the way that I keep up with it is, a couple things that I do. I think the first thing is realizing, number one, that I absolutely cannot be all things to everybody at the same time, and giving myself grace and creating boundaries. When I am with my family, I'm with my family. I don't want to check email. When I'm on vacation, I don't want to have to check email. And, I might, if I make this agreement with my spouse, hey, I'm going to check email once a day. I'm going to get up before everybody else gets up. I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. and from 6 to 7, I'll be on the computer, and that's it. I'm not on it for the rest of the day. If we make that agreement. But if he wants me all to himself and he's like, look, I need you unplugged, I'm unplugging because that relationship has been in place for all the 24 years, but married 18 of those years. So number one, I keep priority as priority, and family is my top priority. And I also want them to feel as special as I make my clients feel. I exceed expectations for my clients. I give them all of me. Well, my family deserve the same thing. So I think number one, just creating boundaries, very, very clear boundaries about, my time, and I'm not going to try to do 15 things at the same time. I'm not going to try to, if I'm trying to help a kid with homework and trying to cook rice, something's going to, either the homework is going to get messed up or the rice is going to get burned. So that's number one, understanding that you're not, as I tell my kids, I'm not an octopus. I'll have them repeat it after me. Repeat after me, mommy is not an octopus. I can't be everywhere and do everything. And then when I am up and about, I maximize every second of every day. I am not sitting on the couch watching hours and hours of television. Unfortunately, I'm not hanging out. I'm doing what's necessary for me to live the life I want to live. And a part of that living my life, the life I want to live, has been exposing my kids to all the things I never got exposed to as a kid. I mean, my kids have been to 10 countries because every year I commit to taking them to one international trip. We just got back from Barcelona, Spain. Last year we were in Athens, Greece. My kids have been to South Africa. They've been to India. They've been to Paris, France. I could go on and on and on. And these are amazing family experiences that they get to experience as a result of what I've built in my business. But I understand, going back to what we talked about earlier, that I still have to do the work. Just because I'm 15 years in doesn't mean the work stops. I still have to make time to go out and network and nurture relationships. I still have to make time to fulfill deliverables for clients. I still have to make time to market and brand and do all the things, social media now, that are required. Now I got to learn AIs, right? There's always something. So part of it is getting up earlier than I might want to get up. I'm really a night owl versus an early morning, but I understand the power of getting up early. Like when I get up at the crack of dawn and it's 4 a.m. and the house is still quiet, do you know how much I get done? Nobody's saying, mommy, can I do this? Can you send me a cash app? Can I buy this game? Can I do this? Nobody's asking me to take this away. My friends, they want me to come to this birthday party. Can you drop me off? Can you pick me up? Nobody's asking me for anything. So that,
and the emails aren't hitting yet either.
Right there. So that's 4 a.m. to about 7 a.m. Oh, that is 3 juicy hours that I love to be able to claim as just, those are like my productive hours, most productive hours. And then sometimes I'm up later than I might want to be, but it's how bad do you want it? And for me, I want to be able to consistently live the life that I've created for my family and to be able to travel the world and touch more lives all over the world. And it just requires that I master my time, management of my time. And so, yes, I say no to things that aren't priority. I don't go to everybody's everything. I'm sorry. I love you. Doesn't mean I love you any less. But if it's between your thing and my family's always going to win. And I have to make sure I make time for them. So I get up earlier than most. I stay up later than most. I maximize every moment of every second of every day. I do not waste my time on time wasters like television and the things that people say. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with television. I just know for me, you can sit on the couch and say you're going to watch television for 30 minutes, and 4 hours later, you're still there watching a marathon of something.
Right.
A binge-a-thon, I think people call it.
Yeah.
I don't have the luxury of using my time that way. So I'm just intentional about how I use my time. I know I only get 24 hours. So the question every day is, what are you going to do for the 24? Well, girl, you just slept 8 of them away. So now we're down to 16. So what are you going to do for this 16 hours? Like, what's going to make the best use of your time? And some of it is delegating. Some of it is outsourcing it. Some of it is saying no. Those are 3 big things in my world.
So in your journey, especially as I believe this as a woman, a mother, an entrepreneur, relationships come, change, and go. Mm-hmm. And some of them are easy in terms of accepting.
Yep.
And some are easy to release. But I have found that there are some relationships that change you, and not always for the better, and they cut you pretty deep. Whether they were a business relationship or they were a personal relationship, and they impact you in such a way that leaves you questioning yourself, mm-hmm. from an ability to create your job, grow your job, as a mother, as a partner. In your journey, thinking through that, these people that have come and go, how have you been able to navigate those types of relationships and releasing the hurt that comes with that?
Oh, that's a deep question. It's so funny. When I first started in my business, my husband said something so profound to me that I didn't get until later. And he's because I did experience some pretty deep hurt. And he's like, please. He said, you better get some thick skin. He said, you're not even making no real money yet. And they can't stand you. Wait till you start making some real money. Really not going to be able to stand you. You're going to have more people that are going to come and go and hurt and take from you than will give to you. And it was the one of the most truthful statements I've ever heard. And so number one, I let myself feel the hurt and go through the emotions of the hurt, because I think it's unfair of us to feel hurt and try to act like it's not really hurting. And I don't linger in hurt long. I'm just not that type of person, but I take hurt and I learn from it. And so, it happens once, it happens twice. You're like, okay, you got to make some different decisions. You got to choose differently. You have to select who you allow in your inner circle differently. You've got to play differently. And you also have to listen, because there have been some people who have caused me great hurt in business primarily. And the red flags were there, but I didn't see them. But my husband saw them, or my sister saw them. And they're the closest 2 people to me, and gave me the warnings. And I was like, no, it's not like that. And that person's not such and such. And, we all know the statement that when people show you who they are the first time, believe them. And I wasn't. I had these glossy eyes and saw everybody in the light of, they would never do anything to hurt me. And so just, when you go through 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 hurts, you finally start to kind of take the gloss away and listen, and also watch for some of the red flags and the signals that you've seen in past situations that led to the same result. And you get smarter, you get wiser. You become more intentional, especially about who you allow into your intimate space. And it can grow you. I believe it really can grow you if you allow it to. And that's what I do. I don't linger in hurt for a long time. I don't allow it to dictate who I am, because I don't want to change my character because of somebody else's negative character. I don't want to change how I show up in the world. I'm a giver. I love serving. I love pouring into people. I don't want to give that up because someone else doesn't know how to put the brakes on being a taker, right? but I did learn how to be wiser and more discerning in who I allow into my space.
I love that. I feel like in all the things, whether it comes as a business owner or as a mother, friendships are the hardest to learn and go through. They really are. And they don't get easier as you get older. In fact, I feel like it gets harder as you get older. And I don't know if it's because you're aging and you just feel like life is getting, more precious,
Yeah.
But they definitely get harder for some reason.
Yeah.
I could spend all day talking with you, and there's so much that I relate with you, and there's so much that you've accomplished that I'm like, I just want to be like Dr. Wood. But, but I need to give you your time back because you're busy. So what is the last thing that you would want my listeners to really key in on, the life lessons that you've learned, your rock bottom moments, and, how you were able to rise above that all?
I'm going to pull in this. I'm actually really excited that I'm working on a new book project. And this is actually book number 28 for me.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I'm really excited. But ironically, 22 of my book projects have been book anthologies where I've helped usher others into becoming authors. And then 5 of my projects have been solo book projects. So this is number 6. So it'll be a total of 28. But all 5 of my solo projects have been tip books, like here's 100 tips on how to master the art of public speaking. Here's 50 tips on how to master your mindset and live your dreams, et cetera, et cetera. So all my previous solo projects, this is my first solo project that is a chapter book that when I tell you, I literally have poured my heart, my soul, my everything into this project. And I bring that up because I feel like the title is so appropriate and applicable for the conversation that we're having. And the title of the book is Turning Unlikely into Undeniable, the blueprint for bravery, belief, and breakthrough. And I share that because there are going to be moments on your journey where you feel like everything you ever dreamed of, you desired, you wanted, you journal about, you put on a vision board, that it just seems so unlikely that it's going to happen for you. You're going to have those moments, just like the two of us have had, where you feel like you took 10 steps back and you're never going to get those 10 steps filled in again. There are going to be times where you feel like you're blazing new paths and you're forging ahead and you're getting things done and you're successful. And then bam, out of nowhere, life is going to come and it's going to gut punch you and knock you down. And sometimes you're going to have those rock bottom moments. And everything that you dreamed of and thought of, everything you talked about, everything you were excited about is going to feel like now it's just so unlikely that this is ever going to happen. And so my challenge to every one of you is to maintain the belief and the bravery to keep pressing forward, to keep forging ahead, knowing that at some point that unlikely is going to turn into undeniable. But it can only do that if you stay in the ring, if you keep fighting, if you work that resilience muscle and keep bouncing back no matter how hard it is to get back up. The only way you can ever become undeniable is if you're still in the ring fighting for it. You will never accomplish your level of undeniable success if you decided to throw in the towel and give up. So this is not the time to quit. This is not the time to shrink back. This is not the time to say, woe is me, and have a pity party. No matter what you're going through and what you're experiencing, you've done tough things before. Keep pressing through every challenge, every obstacle, every roadblock, every setback, every 10 steps back. Because what's ahead of you and what's in front of you on the other side of that setback, on the other side of that challenge or roadblock or obstacle, is going to be so great that it is going to be worth going through so that you have the story to tell.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you for spending time with me, imparting your wisdom, and, good luck to your book. I look forward to picking that up because I think that's going to be great. I just know I'm going to need it because it's going to truly help not only me and those that I'm going to be able to talk to about. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here, and thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you for the conversation and for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. Keep rising, keep speaking your truth, and always remember, you are the storm.